This conference will now be recorded.
To please turn your microphones off. That will help all the feedback. We're not trying to be mean here. We're just trying to keep things to a level where we can all hear. Today's special called meeting is to address the motion for the removal of HOA Gardens member Eugene Turpin. Our bylaws state that any board member may be removed with or without cause when approved by a majority of the voting members of the association. Any director whose removal is proposed shall be given the opportunity to address the membership concerning the removal at the meeting called for such purpose before the vote for removal. So today we have a total of 6 speakers. We have Linda Jewell, Bob Rohr, Nancy Bryant, David Shockey,
You don't
David
have your
Deming,
video on, do you?
No.
and we will be
have the
followed up
camera
by
Yes.
Eugene Turpin's response then after that. So it shouldn't be a lengthy meeting, but we will try to pay attention to our agenda, and that is for the proposed motion that's now on the floor.
Hey, David, I don't see a cookie up. There's a few people that said they would be up and they're not. I don't know if they're having computer problems or what.
Okay, well,
I just second if I don't know what you're looking at, but there are 2 pages of icons. We have 93 people by my count at this point. You may have to go to the second page to see other people who are up. We've just jumped to 94.
Thank you, Joe. I didn't see that. Thank you.
so with that, I will turn the floor over to our speakers. And first on the list, we'll be going in the order that I presented them. Cookie.
David, would you like me to speak for a minute first? This is Joe.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, my name is Joe Moore. I've been the moderator from this since we started, since I had experience teaching online. So the board asked me to be timekeeper. They've asked the speakers to try to limit themselves to 3 minutes. So I have a timer here I'm going to be using. I don't want to be disruptive. I don't want to cut anybody off. But so what I have in mind is this. I'm going to start the timer with the first speaker. When we get to 2.5 minutes, and when he starts or she starts, whoever starts, I'm going to have my camera off, as most of us should have our cameras off unless you're on the board or speaking. But when we hit 2.5 minutes, I'm going to turn my camera on. That's just a soft signal that, hey, you're getting close to your time. Once you hit 3 minutes, I'm going to raise my hand. And if I raise my hand, it kind of looks like that. So I turn my hand off and on. So once I've raised my hand, you've hit the 3 minute mark. And hopefully you're winding up by then. I don't want to have to get to the point where I have to turn your microphone off. I really don't want to do that. So hopefully all the speakers will hold to 3 minutes or close to it. Anything else I forgot, David?
I think you've already got your recording started, so I think that was the only other thing that I was going to mention.
Okay, good. Well, I will just turn it over to you. I'm going to turn my camera off since I am not.
Before you begin, I'd like to ask a question.
Who is speaking?
David Shockey.
David, you have an opportunity to speak during the meeting, during your 3 minutes.
I'm just
So I will
requesting
ask
to
you
ask a
just to
question.
hold off until that time period comes available for you. And then we will begin, we'll go through our scheduled speaker order. So first on the list is going to be Cookie. You are up to speak. And If and when Cookie is available, we will bring her up. So until she is available, we will go on to the next speaker. Joe, do you happen to see that Cookie is on any place?
It's a long list. I don't see her yet.
I see her.
This is Liz. She is on the list and her microphone is muted.
Okay, she can turn her microphone back on. Where did you see her?
Go back down. Stop, right here. Cookie, right there.
Okay, I'm on.
Okay, Cookie.
Okay, I'm against the removal of Eugene, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the issue should only deal with the current term. If your issue is with a developer, take it up with the Wilsons. Neither Eugene nor the board can fix everything. Yes, Eugene was not elected, nor was anyone elected to this current board. Why? Because not enough residents cared enough to run. With election choices, there is a process for the next in line to fill the vacancies. It's not an easy job. Just ask those who've ever been on a board. In our situation, Eugene and the current board members all volunteered to give their time and their best for the community. None of us is perfect. Not all proposals are accepted either by the board or by the residents. Not all proposals can be passed. As we learned in the successful June meeting, communication is the key. Recently, we witnessed a retraining of sorts. Disrupting the meeting itself is not effective. It's important to allow our issues to be aired and discussed, but don't come to a meeting and hit the board without warning. Let them know ahead of time the things that need to be addressed. Now, Eugene's background is from the military. His instinct, see a situation, make a decision, and act. When Eugene wanted to unite the garden's phases, he attempted to change the DCCRs. Turns out it can't be done, and Mr. Wilson has explained why. So let's move on. Eugene may have stepped his bounds when trying to get some things done. These things needed to be managed by the board members, but not by the residents demanding his removal. Some of you have had your feelings hurt by being told you were out of line or out of order. Get over it. Life isn't perfect. Hopefully, we've all learned that communication is the key. Stepping up to volunteer instead of complaining is very important. Folks, no matter how the vote goes next week, don't expect a fairy tale ending where we all live happily ever after. If you can look yourself in the mirror and know you can do a better job than Eugene or anybody else on the board, then do your part, run next time. Meanwhile, let's complain less, communicate more, and cooperate more. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Cookie. Next on the list to speak is Bob Rohr. Does anybody see Bob on the list?
He was having communication problems with getting on the internet a little while ago.
We'll give him a little time here.
I do not see him on the list here. Again, I got a lot of names to go through, but I do not see him.
We'll come back to Bob if he's able to join us, and we'll move on to the next speaker, Nancy Bryant. You have the speaker. Nancy, turn your speaker on. Turn your mic on, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Good. Good morning, neighbors. What I'm about to read are excerpts from my email to Mr. Turpin on June 13th. I believe you actually have the best interests of the gardens in mind, but your methods of expressing and presenting your ideas have alienated a good many of our residents. Perhaps it is your military background, or possibly just a type A personality, but you come across as saying, I have examined this. I have worked out the details. I have decided that it should be done this way, and there is no need for discussion from any of you, which indicates you people just aren't bright enough to understand that my way is best. When I was on the board myself, one of my first actions was to invite the entire community to let me know what their concerns were, what they wanted and wanted to see accomplished. The response was absolutely overwhelming. People remarked over and over that they had never been approached by a board member for their opinions. Then I suggested that every major decision to be voted on by the board should be surveyed first. You gave lip service to that suggestion, Eugene. But since my survey about the independent auditor, I have only seen 2 other surveys. Now, due to the uproar and outrage publicly expressed, you have backed off some of the DCR changes you proposed. But until you learn to respect the opinions of others and cease trying to bulldoze your ideas over people who just want to live in a peaceful, friendly community, you will continue to receive the written abuse you get now. I truly believe the call for your removal from the board is self-inflicted because of your heavy-handed, overbearing, and often rude attitude towards others. The constant referral to Robert's Rules of Orders has become an eye-rolling joke. And I hate seeing the way this has escalated into such a destructive, hateful situation. Eugene responded saying, thank you, Nancy, for taking the time to express your thoughts and opinions. I will take all of your comments under consideration moving forward and hope to do better at improving people's perceptions of my actions. Understanding and following the rules was definitely ingrained into my military training. Oh, would that would actually be. But I have never seen a leopard change its spots. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nancy. I see Bob Rohr is on. So Bob, you have the microphone. I'm not hearing you, Bob. Can anybody else hear him?
No.
I see your microphone is on, turned on, but I'm not hearing any audio.
Bob, you turned yourself off. I don't know if you can turn yourself back on. We cannot hear you.
Okay, Bob has identified that he doesn't have a mic available. So we will allow him time to either remedy that. But in the meantime, let's go on to the next speaker, and that is David Shockey.
Yes, Cookie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, David.
First off, I believe I should have been allowed to ask a question at the beginning, since we have submitted several requests and inquiries about the process and over the last 2 weeks, and the board has failed to even respond to indicate that they received our request. I think that's very unprofessional on the board's part. I submitted my comments to the board and the bulletin board to be published today so individuals could read them if I couldn't speak for some reason, and the board has chosen that they are not going to allow my comments to be posted. Again, something very unprofessional. As far as Eugene is concerned, I'll move along very quickly. I served in the Army for 22 years. I've worked with veterans, I've hired veterans, I've counseled veterans. I've never lied to a veteran, and I've never misled a veteran. Back in the latter part of May, I requested to meet with Eugene and even offered to take him to breakfast to discuss what I've seen going on in the gardens. He first responded that he wasn't available on the day that I recommended. Then he responded that he was too busy the following week. Excuse me. And then he responded that he had just departed on a trip and he would be traveling the rest of the month and would not be available by email or phone. I have communications to prove that. First off, he lied to me, he misled me, and then on June 10th, all of a sudden, he shows up with a deputy sheriff at the meeting. No veteran should ever treat another veteran that way, ever. That is just totally
How do you know this?
unacceptable. And I never would ever do that to a veteran. So he's lost my complete trust completely for whatever time period that I may know him. Now, this goes back to the response at the board. I have no understanding whatsoever why the board can't post my comments or Bob Rohr's comments or anybody else's. If you look at what's been transpiring over the last few days, there's been all kinds of comments coming in and it's been going through. But because we're speaking, we're not allowed to post our comments. That does not provide any rational justification that I can come up with. So it appears to me that, first off, we need to go ahead and vote for the removal of Mr. Turpin. And secondly, we need a complete reset of the board. And that means that we need to go back and take a look at every board member. Since nobody's been voted for, why don't we have a vote of confidence, no confidence on every single board member, and also have a new open process for a president and a vice president. Now, before you do that, let's allow 30 days for people to put in recommendations for board members and presidents. And why don't we have open nominations so that we can all maybe gain some confidence back into an HOA board. Proceeding on as usual is not going to be successful. And I'll end with that, and I'll ask again that my full comments be posted to the board, bulletin board, so people can read them. If you do not wish to do that, any member of the community may contact me by email, and I'll be glad to forward you my full comments to you directly. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, David. I see Bob may have found a voice.
Yes, he did.
I found the voice. Thank you.
Great. Bob, it is yours.
Okay, the name is Bob Rohr. Okay, I'm at 89 Gardens View Drive. Okay, it's been a kind of a hard place to start because there's been a lot of things already out there that people have read. So I just want to get into this, that this is not the first time that Eugene has been on the board. And I've been here for 15 years. Okay, Eugene, when he gets on the board, he takes full control over everything. Okay, he takes the bulletin board, he takes the minutes, he just controls the whole works. And I should be reading this, but I'm kind of just freelancing it. But things have changed now because now we got a little bit of like the virtual, like what we're doing today. So there's more and more people are going to be able to go to these meetings and to see what is being said and to see how all the minutes, if we ever get a secretary that wants to work with Eugene. So Eugene makes up these policies. Okay, let's take policy 20. His first thing is, quote, I believe that these changes are necessary to prevent the residents from taking advantage of communication platform managed by the homeowners association to create drama. That's a quote from Eugene. That's his first way to stop any type of communication between the residents here in the gardens. Okay, and he just keeps making these different articles. We can go into okay, so let's go to Article 1, Section 4. Common areas shall mean all real property, including the improvements thereto owned by the association. Owned is the word. Owned by the association for common use and enjoyment of the owners. Take out the word own, and he wants to replace it with designated. Okay, if the HOA doesn't own the property, why are we going to take care of something that we don't own? That's up to the developer. Okay, the developer still owns it. Then he goes into other proposals or other policy 22, wants to find your neighbors. This is all Eugene's policy. This is not the board's policy. This would have never come up if Eugene wasn't there. These DCRs, they were made to stay the way that they are unless something is really crazy out of control. Okay, so I'm going to post all of this stuff probably after I talk about it. I have a lot more to go. I talk about the $12,000 spent, and if you take a walk over there to the side of the pond, you'll see the bag is buried. Nothing's growing. There is water pooling. When we could have had, and there was a bid to do for $2,000. Do you think that we could have got it done for $2,000? I don't think so. But even if we got it done for half that amount. But this was his decision and only his decision. And that's the reason why he got Chris Shields to try to get it to sign off, and he resigned because he wouldn't. And it all boils down to it's what Eugene wants. If you don't do what he wants, he'll just bully you until you submit to him. So thank you for your time. I'll be posting some other stuff to read. We can move on to whoever's next. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Our next speaker will be David Deming. You have the microphone, David.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and
Can you
clear.
hear me? Okay. Hello, neighbors. My name is Dave Deming. My wife, Mary Jo, and I have been residents here for 21 years this month. Here are some observations about President Eugene Turpin. Sends out meeting notices labeled to join my meeting. Sorry, guys, but this is our neighborhood and our homeowners association meeting. Calls us a society. This happened 2 times on May 6, 2025. Yes, there was a large number of moans from the residents, so I know most neighbors did not agree with this. Called in a county sheriff on the June 10th meeting and then asked the board to pay for it. The HOA is without a secretary, and because no one is willing to work with Eugene, 2 meetings now without a governing document say we have to have meeting minutes. Tried to rewrite the governing documents by himself to change the wording to make it more open to using our money for property we don't own, like Bob said. Policy 18 tells the residents how to do this, and it's got to come from the residents, not the board. Again, tried to rewrite how to vote so we could jam more things in without us voting on them. Since the removal petition came out, he's tried to run the thing. I, for one, and other neighbors agree that if there was a petition to remove someone, even the president, they should stand down from HOA activities until the removal vote. Is there a big ego or dictator mentality here? Use the same lawyer as the developer. Can you say conflict of interest? Called one board member without other board members even knowing, who disagreed with him, and asked him to resign. Threatened to make the whole neighborhood vote on it. This was before electronic voting, so that was costly at that time. Took over the mic from the 2023 president at the annual meeting, trying to make himself look important. Calls residents and board members and keeps repeating himself about his demands until the person agrees with him. I'm sure this is what happened to Chris and cost us 12 grand. This could have been done for 2, maybe a little more. Part of the 12 grand was used to remove debris that was the result of the West Pond from the developer's responsibility, because it came from Homeless Hill. Yes, he used this tactic on me, and MJ was listening. Instead of answering, I just hung up on him. In the almost 21 years I've been here in the gardens, we've had several major turmoil times, such as the one we're experiencing now. Most dissipated in a few days to a week, but the ones which lasted the longest both involved Mr. Eugene Turpin. Thank you very much for your time. And yes, this will be posted later with some more.
Thank you, David. All right. So we have completed the 5 speakers who had signed up to speak at large. So the next and final speaker will be Eugene Turpin. Eugene, you have the microphone.
Thank you, David. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
There was a time when a soldier serving in the United States Army was reassigned from the post where he was stationed. He and his wife were excited about moving to a new place and meeting new people. They looked forward to being a part of the community, and they joined many organizations after arriving to their new home. They volunteered many hours of their free time serving people in their community and enjoyed the many social activities in which they participated. But after a while, during many chaotic meetings, it became harder and harder to have effective community meetings due to many different views of the growing community. It was determined that this was because many people came from a variety of states and had various occupations and had served in many different types of organizations in the different communities from which they came. It was noted that those people, while serving in different ways, had different experiences in the organizations they served in the past and did not understand why things were so different in the community they now lived. This was because there were different rules for the many different organizations where they come from. As a result, it was hard for them to adapt to the new rules of their new community. After years of trying to improve the effectiveness of the meetings, he decided to write a book that would help facilitate an orderly meeting. So almost 160 years ago, in 1867, soon after leaving San Francisco, California, Major Henry Robert began writing the first edition of Robert's Rules of Order, which was published in 1876. The latest 12th edition of the book was revised in 2020 and is used as a primary reference of parliamentary law in the United States. This story is similar to mine. I retired from the Army in 2013 after 35 years of service. My wife and I came to the gardens, bought a lot, built our house, only house we ever built, in 2015, a little over 10 years ago. We were excited to be part of this community and happy to finally have a permanent home after moving around every 3 years for the past 35 years. That same year, in August 2015, I was appointed to the board to complete the term of a board member that had resigned. I had no idea what it meant to serve on a board, as this was my first time ever being in an HOA. So I asked a lot of questions and sought answers from current and past board members, other residents, and I studied all the governing documents that affected our HOA. I read all of our HOA historical documents I could find, to include all the official minutes of every meeting that had been recorded. Then I read several books that had been written about parliamentary laws and procedures. In 2016, I was elected for a 3-year term and elected by the board to be president. I served as the president on the board for 4 years and served on the board until May of 2022. In October of 23, I became concerned about the board's lack of meetings over the past year and the financial impact of the ponds cleanup project. The records show the board held no monthly meetings in July, August, or September in 2023. This was not only a violation of our bylaws and parliamentary procedures, but this reduces the HOA's credibility in the eyes of the laws of the state. If the HOA is ever involved in a lawsuit of any type, it is very likely that our minutes of meetings will be scrutinized. This type of board action could hurt the HOA's legal standing on any action. The Treasurer's report for October 2023 showed that the financial reserve account was down to about $16,000. I had never seen our financial reserve account that low. This was a result of the growing cost of the ponds cleanup project that ended up well over $100,000, which did not include removal of the pond silt bags nor the ground restoration work that was required. As a result of this large expenditure of reserve funds, the board voted in March of this year to amend our financial reserve policy so that in the future, it will require a 2/3 vote of approval by the directors to spend funds on capital assets that are not fully funded or in excess of 40% of total funds available. In addition, the board is now directed by the bylaws to review the financial reserve annually to make sure that the financial reserve fund is adequate. When I was on the board previously in 2016, I noted that for years, the HOA maintained a reserve account of $60,000. I questioned where the number $60,000 came from and how was it determined? And how do we know it is enough? At that time, it did not appear that an actual reserve analysis had ever been conducted. As a result, in 2017, the board established a reserve fund review committee who did a thorough review of our major capital assets, which resulted in a policy change that more adequately addressed and planned for potential future expenses. This is when a line item was added to our operating budget that would allocate funds each year to our reserve account. As for the cost of the removal of the pond silt bags and restoration of the grounds from the pond cleanup project, those funds have been taken solely out of the operational budget as part of the line item for grounds maintenance. Most of it came from last year's budget and some from this year's budget. January 17th of this year, I was appointed as a director to fill the spot of one of 2 directors that had resigned. I was then appointed by the board to be the president of the HOA. Since my appointment, there has been a small group of residents that have been very vocal against my appointment to the board and do not approve of some of my views on topics. During the meeting on 8 April, residents disrupted the meeting with outbursts that required me to call 2 10-minute recesses in an attempt to quell the disruption of the meeting. During the meeting on 6 May, in what seemed to be a planned event, immediately after the opening of the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, a resident went on a rant for several minutes, disrupting the meeting. After numerous times of me asking him to leave, he finally did. Later in the meeting, the board was given a petition signed by 34 residents requesting a meeting be held to consider my removal from the board of directors. On 24 May, I got an email suggesting that I resign from the board for my safety and the safety of the other board members. 2 days later, I got a phone call from a friend telling me to be careful and that they knew who the driving force was behind trying to get me removed from the board, and they knew that that person always carries a gun wherever they go. This person identified to me has, on more than one occasion in the past, made it known that they carry a gun to people around them in a threatening or concerning manner. This was not the first time I had heard of this same individual doing similar things in our neighborhood. The combination of this information was concerning, so I reported it to the Crossville Police Department. As a result, I thought it appropriate to have a peace officer attend our last HOA meeting as a safety precaution. As for future meetings, my hope is to have regular meetings every month, improve our hybrid online portion of our meetings, and create a more inclusive meetings with resident input, similar to the last meeting we had 8 June. However, the HOA charter and bylaws are clear that the board of directors is tasked with the management of the day-to-day business and the meetings held each month. They are board of directors business meetings, not a monthly meeting of the members. I do acknowledge that some changes that affect how we do business in the future should have resident input, and surveys can be a good tool for some topics to get that feedback. But many things can and should be dealt with at the board level. The board must decide the best way to handle a topic of a discussion with a discussion. Our bylaws also reference Robert's Rules of Order as our parliamentary procedures that we will follow. If the board wants to change that, they can. However, it is important that our HOA hold civil meetings and discussions and follow the rules established in our bylaws. Democracy is defined in Robert's Rules as providing for a deliberative discussion that ensures the minority is heard and the majority rules. It sometimes seems to me that the vocal minority tries to rule over the silent majority, but I could be wrong. I have made many mistakes in the past, and like everyone else, I am human, and I try to learn from those mistakes and hope to improve over time. If you find something egregious that you feel I have done and truly believe I should be removed from the board of directors, please vote accordingly. It truly will not hurt my feelings, and I will be happy to step aside, as I know in my heart that every decision I have ever made on the board had the best intentions in mind for our great community. I love it here. I'll continue to say there is no other place I'd rather live than right here. I recently visited the Medal of Honor Museum in Chattanooga. One of the themes displayed in the museum was the definition of citizenship. It was defined as, quote, actively participating in our democracy and in our community, unquote. My hope for our future is that we will have open and honest elections next spring to replace 2 directors that will fulfill their term in May of next year. In order to do that, we need at least 3 people to volunteer and agree to actively participate in service to our community. What keeps me going is I always tell myself, somebody needs to do it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Eugene. That concludes our speakers for today's meetings. Normally, we would have a discussion period at the end of our meetings, but I will ask you to hold that off until our regular business meeting, which will be conducted on July the 8th. As for how the voting will now take place, I was in contact with Dick Green this morning, and he will be activating the voting beginning early in the morning, and it will take place in the following manner. You will receive a notification that the voting is open, and it will tell you where to go. So there will be a site that will include the opportunity to cast your vote at that site. The voting window will stay open through July the 7th. At that time, the results will be tabulated and posted via the community bulletin board on July the 8th. So as of this time, the meeting is adjourned. I thank you for your participation. I thank you for our speakers. And again, just as a reminder, our next business meeting will take place on the 8th of July. Thank you, everyone. The meeting is officially adjourned.